Hi guys, welcome back to yet another painting tutorial. So today we're going to be looking at how I go painting some US Airborne. With the anniversary of D-Day just gone, I thought I would do something a little bit different, so move away from the German stuff and sort of, I think I called this project Tribute to D-Day. If you're on Facebook and you're following me, then you would have seen that post. So we're going to be looking at how I paint my US Airborne in their M42 uniforms. And if you're going to enjoy this video, I'm also going to be releasing a British Airborne tutorial next week, also as a tribute to D-Day. So let's get started. So to start off with, I'm going to undercoat the figure in German camo dark brown. They're all Vallejo colors that I'm using today, so I just paint that on. You can use a spray can of a dark brown if you wish, something similar to that. Then I'm going to undercoat the uniform in US Field Drab. So same as what I've done in my other videos, I'm just going to be capturing pretty much the whole uniform and just leaving those shaded areas in there. So the image that's just cropped up there is going to be showing you the sort of look that I want to go for. You can tell with the US Airborne uniform, it's very much similar in terms of the color. So the webbing and the uniform pretty much are exactly the same. So we need to manipulate it a little bit when we're painting to capture the differences. Otherwise, it's just going to be one blown out color. Then I'm moving on to green ochre. This is going to give you that more of a yellowy tinge to the uniform. So I'm just going over that US Field Drab that I did just a second ago, leaving some of that darker drab in some of the creases and that. But yeah, being pretty generous with the amount of this lighter yellow that I'm using. You can see that I'm taking my time here. This process can be quicker if you want to make it quicker, but the cleanup might take a little bit longer. Then to highlight, I'm just going to be using Iraqi sand. So I'm just going to make sure I'm capturing those sharp edges. The great thing about Battlefront Miniatures is they're full of detail, especially these old metal ones. I haven't really painted the new plastic ones, but if the older metal ones are anything to go by, then I'm sure it's going to be almost exactly the same. You could use a finer brush at this stage, especially when you're doing highlights, but I was confident with this brush that I'm using. I'm using a Games Workshop Layer S. As my go-to brush. I love it. Yeah, highly recommended. Oh, just dropped him there. So this model is from the old Metal Band of Brothers set that Flames of War did. It's now out of production, but if you can get a set, I really recommend it. Now I'm going to be moving on to the helmet. I'm going to be painting that helmet in US dark green. So don't be afraid if it's got scrim or if it's got like the leather strap or anything over it. You can paint over that and go back over it with that dark brown color later on. I think for the sake of this video, I tried to sort of work around it. The strap, he didn't have any bits of scrim or leaves or anything like that coming out of his helmet. But ordinarily, I'll just slap that green paint on and go back over it with a dark brown color to paint that strap later on. So this tutorial, we're not going to be using any washes. I really don't like washes because they make the figures quite dark once they've dried. So they might look good when the figure's wet with the wash still on it, but once that wash is dried, it will darken that figure quite a lot. So let's try and avoid them if we can. So now, whilst I'm letting that helmet dry, I'm going to be painting anything that's black. So anything metallic. So I'm painting his gun black. I know US Airborne had a metal water bottle, so I'm painting the lid of that water bottle because it actually has got its own little pouch that it sits in. So I'm just going to be painting the very top of that water bottle black. I'm painting his gun black. Anything else that's metal, I'll be painting black. So I'm getting in all the areas that you can see. So the side of his magazine, underneath his magazine, on his Thompson. Over the Thompson. Be careful because the Thompson obviously has a wooden handle. I believe the Thompson has where the trigger is, that sort of grip is wooden, and obviously his stock is wooden as well. So don't go too crazy. Once that's done, I'm now going to go back over what I'd done previously. So I'm going to be going to be fixing up some of my mistakes in that German camo dark brown that I initially coated the miniature in. So this is normally where you want to fix up any mistakes you've made on the uniform, especially around the webbing. Normally you paint over the webbing to get into difficult places, and then you'd go back over later on. So as you can see, I'm not painting the webbing at this stage. I've done the uniform and the bits around the uniform, and then I'm going around and fixing up any mistakes that I've made. You want to do this because you might take time to paint the webbing, then you're going to go through and try and fix up some of the mistakes that you could have made, and then you might end up painting the webbing with that black brown, which you really don't want to do. Take your time at this step. This whole process involves a lot of patience, but the end result will be worth it. You'll really enjoy looking at your miniatures if you follow this process. Okay, the next step is to get green gray, and I'm going to dry brush. So I get an old brush and I'm going to dry brush the top of his helmet. His helmet has like netting on it, as if you were going to put scrim in that netting. So that dry brush should capture a lot of that netting that's around the helmet. Don't go crazy. I've taken a lot of paint off of this brush, which you would naturally do with a dry brush. So it looks like I'm going quite hard on it, but I'm really not. Okay, and then I go back over the strap, for his chin strap that's over the top of his helmet. I've gone back over that. I think it's a chin strap. There's some sort of red leather over the top of his helmet or at the front of his helmet, so I've gone over it with the black brown, where the dry brush has sort of painted it a bit more green. So you can see the miniature starting to take shape, starting to look quite good. Pretty happy with it so far. All right, next we're going to be painting the webbing. So we're using khaki grey for the webbing. Exactly the same process as all the other steps, like the uniform and that. You want to be painting what you can see, but leaving that shade or that shadow color between the pouches. And if the pouches overlaps, or if it's got like a lid or something like that, then you want to try and use that darker color to portray that there's something there, like a bag or something, where the top of it's going over the base. And obviously you want to be leaving a bit of that darker color between the webbing and the uniform, so it doesn't merge into two yellowy colors. Okay, so now I'm moving on to Russian uniform to paint a green bag. You could have painted this in khaki grey, but and I believe this bag probably would have been more of the khaki grey color, but I really wanted to add a different color in there, to sort of draw your eye, especially with a bag the size that it is. It's up to you, really. It really is up to you. So I'm painting this in that Russian uniform. It's your call, but yeah, it's a stage I think is necessary, especially when you've got a uniform like this where it's just all the same color. You want to try and mix it up where you can. And I know some of the pictures I've seen, the medics and that, they have a greener bag, so it might not be historically inaccurate like I said it was, but it could be. I'm no historian. So it's coming out quite nicely. That's the webbing base down. Now I'm going to highlight the webbing. I'm going to be using stone grey, so I'm just going to be capturing little parts of the webbing just to make it stand out a bit more. I'm not coating the entire webbing with this stone grey. I'm just adding a line along the top of his like strap. I'm adding a couple of lines on each ammo pouch, etc. You'll see in the final pictures sort of how you want to go about highlighting if you can. There's an art to it. It does take a lot of learning, and I'm still learning. I'm definitely no expert, but this is how I go about painting my stuff. There is an art to it, and there's some fantastic tutorials out there that you'll watch, and you'll sort of tailor it to your needs. Now moving on to Italian Tank Crew. This is going to highlight that bag that I was just just on. It's just making it a brighter green, really. It's a subtle highlight. It's not anything too crazy, but it's nice. All right, so now I'm painting his boots and anything that's leathery. So I'm using red leather. I'm going to paint the top of that strap along his helmet. I'm going to paint his chin strap that's sort of dangling down, and I'm going to paint his boots. So I'm going to be doing that all with this red leather. This model, as I said before, was out of production. It's now out of production, Band of Brothers set. So this is portraying Lieutenant Spears, who obviously a lot of us would know, especially World War II buffs that would have watched Band of Brothers or have read any of the books about the 101st Airborne. He's a prominent sort of figure around that period. And it's a fantastic model. I mean, I would love to see these come back out again. So if you can get a set of these on Facebook or eBay, then you wouldn't regret it. I mean, it's got Winters, it's got Nixon, it's got a lot of the characters in there. Fortunately, I've got two sets. I've got one that I'm going to be using for Normandy, and then one that I'm going to be using for sort of Bastogne, where I'll be painting them in those darker uniforms. So I'm using the exact same process as I've done with every other part of this. I'm leaving wherever there's sort of a darker area or where I want some sort of that dark color. I'm leaving lines and stuff like that just to give the boot more shape, so it's not just one big red blob. So now I'm going to be moving on to flat earth, and I'm going to be painting anything wooden. So as I said before, the grip of the Thompson, the grip, the pistol grip, and also his stock. If we was to have a shovel, I could paint the handle in this flat earth. Literally anything that's brown. Very slow process here. I'm just, because we're getting into the later stage of this model, I don't want to make any mistakes. So it's important to take your time. Don't rush. I used to rush all the time, and I probably say this throughout all my videos. I used to rush all the time because I wanted to get the model done. I was getting frustrated because it wasn't getting done quick enough. Since I've taught myself to take my time, start investing in what I'm painting. The results you'll get are fantastic. I know some people like to just bash out figures, but if you're like me that likes, to enjoy your results and take your time. All right, so to highlight those metallic colors, we're using German gray. So you can be quite generous here. A lot of people, instead of just base coating the metal in black, will base coat it in German gray. So don't be afraid to go a little bit harder with the color, opposed to like if you're highlighting, you can put a bit more down, but you still want to use that black to add definition to that Thompson. So I'm making sure I can get in every angle. So I'm getting the magazine and I'm getting underneath that Thompson as well. If there is a strap, but you can't really make out the metal clip that holds the weapon strap, you would paint that as well. Now I'm doing a 50-50 mix of red leather and deck tan. And then I'm just highlighting the tops of his boots where his laces would be. Again, I'm going to be moving to the chin strap and the top of his helmet, just putting a nice little line there. His chin strap has like a circle where his chin would go in. I'd be painting the edges of that circle, again, to give it definition. So you would look at it. You want to be able to look at these models and go, that's a boot, that's a bag, that's his chin strap, that's his helmet. Sometimes you can look at a model and you sort of lose the detail that's been put into it. And that's a shame because a lot of these models are fantastic in terms of what they can cram in there in such a small space. So you can see I'm sort of using this brush as my really fine brush that I would normally use for highlighting. It's a trick or a technique you'll start getting used to when you do a lot more of this. Now the final highlight or the final color I'm using for metallic, for the metallic weapon is London Grey. This is a proper highlight, so I'm not going mental with this. I'm just capturing the little lines. The Thompson has quite a few little bits that stick out, so you can capture that with the metallic grey. I will, however, put quite a big blob on the top of his water bottle, just because I want it to really stand out that that's the water bottle hidden away in his cover. You can see there, I've just put that blob on there. Yeah, it's hard to see in this video, but you'll see it in the final pictures, hopefully. So this is where we're up to now, before the final stage of putting, giving him some skin color. So now we're going to use German Camel Pale Brown. So there's two things we're going to be painting here. We're going to be painting his skin, and we're going to be highlighting his weapon, his wood, the wood on his weapon, and if he had a shovel and stuff like that. So I'm painting his skin now, and then I'm going to highlight the wood. So I'm capturing his cheekbones, his chin, his nose, not painting his eye sockets. I want to leave it dark around there so you can sort of see where the eyes would be. I'm not one that likes to paint eyes, especially at this scale. I mean, it's almost impossible. I don't think I've actually seen anyone attempt it, but for the bigger models, even like if you go up to 28mm or anything like that, I'm still not a big fan of painting eyes, so I will use this technique even with them, with that scale. But also painting his hands, making sure I'm capturing the fingers. I know that there's a thumb hidden behind that on the opposite side of the Thompson, so I want to sort of flip the model around and capture that thumb. It's easy to forget. Now I'm highlighting that wooden grip. The wooden grip on a Thompson sort of folds in on itself, so you want to capture the top and bottom with the highlight and leave that groove that's cut into that grip darker. Now I'm moving on to flat flesh. So obviously this is going to be your prominent color for the flesh. Again, same thing, capturing the cheekbones, the nose, leaving a little bit more of that light brown between them. So all in all, this whole process from start to finish took about an hour and a half. Now I know you're probably thinking that's a long time. It is a long time. But the results are going to be worth it. Honestly, it's not, it's not as good as some people could do it, but what you're getting here is fantastic. I personally think, and it's definitely worth a lot of the blood, sweat, and tears you put into it. And then the final highlight for skin is I'm just going to use basic skin tone, and this is literally just a line here and there. So I might dot a bit on his nose, dot a bit on each cheek, put a line on where his exposed bit of his hand might be. It's just you don't really need to do this step if you don't want to, but I like it. Just gives a bit of a highlight to that skin. Cool. So the last step is, or one of the last steps is to paint his weapon strap. So we're using Splinter Camo base. That's going to be the base color for this strap. So the straps can be quite tricky with these models. You sort of have to figure out where it's going. So this one's tucking to the left side of the Thompson and going underneath his arm and coming out of the back. So you just want to trace where it's going with this Splinter Camo base and just follow it along. And then the final color or highlight is Deck Tan. Again, the strap will sort of fold in on itself, so just two lines either side will give you the look that you're trying to achieve. And you can see I'm still using that same brush. So I've pretty much used the same brush this entire process. I did use the Army Painter Insane Detail for one other step. And then there's the finished product. So he's finished, that's Spears, Lieutenant Spears, all finished. And there's the reference photo that I used. I think I'm moving a bit closer for you. So you can sort of get an idea. The colors aren't 100%, but for this scale, this size, I think it does the job quite nicely. And if you can paint a platoon of these or an even company, I think you'd be very happy, and I'd love to see what you guys do. If you do follow this tutorial, I'd love to see some of your finished products. So that ends the video today, guys. Thanks for all your support. Please like and subscribe if you're new, and don't forget to keep an eye out for the British Airborne painting tutorial that's going to be coming up. I really enjoyed this one, so hopefully it will be a good video. Anyway, thank you very much, guys. Goodbye.